Hello, everybody. Very glad to have you join us again for ID24. We're in the second stage of our 24 hours of accessibility discussions by some of the world's greatest and best accessibility experts in the world. We just had a great session with Kathy Walbin and Gene Spellman on mobility accessibility. I hear some. So with me is John Metz, my partner as we host this particular session. And John, you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm John Metz, and I'll be your tour guide for the next few hours on this wonderful journey. This is my first event with Pastel Group. I'm really excited about this. Really excited about presenting for some really amazing minds. This is really cool.
Excellent. And our next speaker is our good friend and colleague from Japan, Makoto Ueki. And Makoto, we're going to turn the show over to you. Please take the screen. I'm going to hand over the presentation to you and get you going.
Okay.
Go ahead, Makoto.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay. So thank you so much for attending my session. I'd like to thank the Patriel Group for having me here again. And first of all, I hope you could bear with my English. So I'm Makoto Ueki from Tokyo, Japan. I'm a web accessibility consultant. I've been participating in the WCAG working group, and I was chair of Japanese Standard Working Group. And I'm a chairman of the Web Accessibility Committee in Japan. So if you have any questions about web accessibility in Japan, please feel free to ask me any questions. I'm giving my talk from a hotel room in Kobe right now. Do you know Kobe? Kobe is the sixth largest city in Japan. It is located on the southern side of the main island of Honshu and about 70 kilometers, 43 miles west of Kyoto. Kobe is known as a beautiful port city, having a unique style with exotic atmosphere in Japan. It's 11 p.m. on the 19th Thursday in Japan. Today, we celebrated the Global Accessibility Awareness Day in Kobe. We held an event, Accessibility Festival 2016, in Kobe. It was a one-day conference, and the event was supported by Kobe City and Hyogo Council of Social Welfare. There were 7 sessions and many demonstration booths. We had about 70 attendees for each session. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the WCAG Next. As many of you know, WCAG 2.0 became the W3C recommendation in December 2008. So WCAG 2.0 is now 7.5 years old spec. Before I start talking about WCAG Next, let me share with you how web accessibility is going in Japan. In Japan, we have a national standard for web accessibility. The standard is called JIS X8341 Part 3. JIS stands for Japanese Industrial Standards. The official name of JIS X8341 Part 3 is Guidelines for Older Persons and Persons with Disabilities, Information and Communications Equipment, Software and Services, Part 3, Web Content. The national standard was published in 2004 for the first time. I'll call it simply JIS through my presentation today. One of the things I'd like you to know is that JIS standard had older persons as target users for web accessibility, as well as people with disabilities, because Japan is the most rapidly aging country in the world. JIS Working Group reviewed the existing guidelines in those days, such as WCAG 1.0, Section 508, working draft of WCAG 2.0, and some public sector's guidelines and some companies' guidelines. We gathered all of the requirements and added some Japanese language specific requirements to the year 2004 version of JIS. In 2010, the JIS standard was updated. In general, Japanese national standards can be reviewed and revised every 5 years. The JIS standard adopted the same success criteria in WCAG 2.0 as a requirement for web content. We got the same 61 success criteria with 3 levels: single A, double A, and triple A. We also have some additional JIS specific requirements for the life cycle process and evaluation methodologies. For example, webmaster must document the accessibility policy at the planning phase, and website must provide a mechanism to gather feedbacks and or comments from the users by providing a contact form in an accessible way. And we made it possible to make conformance claim for website. We adopted the random sampling for the evaluation. WCAG 2.0 has supporting technical materials such as Understanding WCAG 2.0 and Techniques for WCAG 2.0. Since JIS adopted the same success criteria, we can use them as supporting technical materials for JIS. So we translated them into Japanese. In March this year, right before the CSUN conference, the JIS standard was updated again. The year 2060 version of JIS standard became identical with ISO IEC 40500, which is great. The ISO standard is equal to WCAG 2.0. No, I should say that WCAG 2.0 became the international standard. And now it is safe to say that WCAG 2.0 became the Japanese national standard as well. Okay, now WCAG Next. There is an active discussion about WCAG Next Possible Models. This discussion happened in the W3C WCAG Working Group. WCAG 2.0 was published as a W3C recommendation in December 2008, and it's 2016 now. For the past 7.5 years, web technologies has evolved, as you know. There might be some new success criteria that WCAG should have, because we didn't have such issues when WCAG 2.0 was published. So there are 3 task forces now. The task forces were organized to develop the extension of WCAG 2.0 for each category. One is Cognitive and Learning Disabilities Accessibility Task Force. I'm very interested in this task force because I think there must be many common issues among cognitive disabilities, learning disabilities, and older persons. My country, Japan, is the most rapidly aging country in the world, as I mentioned before. Introduction of WCAG 2.0 says, note that even content that conforms at the highest level AAA will not be accessible to individuals with all types, degrees, or combinations of disability, particularly in the cognitive, language, and learning areas. So we need to build more understanding on these areas and discuss potential success criteria for the guideline. Second one is Mobile Accessibility Task Force. As you know, mobile technology is the most significant change after WCAG 2.0 was published in 2008. These days, people are touching screen to access the web and interact with the web content. When we access the web, we use multi-devices and multi-screen sizes. We can easily imagine that there are issues WCAG 2.0 has not addressed. There is mobile accessibility guideline developed by BBC. Most of them can be mapped to the existing success criteria of WCAG 2.0, but there is a mobile-specific guideline. It's about touch target size. It reads, touch targets must be large enough to touch accurately. As for mobile accessibility task force, Gene Spellman and Kathy Wabin just shared with us the details right before my talk. And last one is low vision accessibility task force. When we talk about web accessibility, we tend to talk about blind users, but the visual impairment is not limited to being blind. Low Vision Task Force is going to identify issues and specify solutions to web accessibility, which are specific to users with low vision. But the WCAG working group didn't have any concrete definition about the extension in the first place. What is the extension? What are these three task forces developing? How will the extension look like? So the discussion on WCAG Next Possible Model started, and 5 options were proposed. Category 1 is maintain WCAG 2.0, add normative extensions. And there are two options. Option 1.1 is WCAG 2.0 plus mobile extension, cognitive extension, low vision extension, etc. And option 1.2 is WCAG 2.0 plus extensions by technology or platform. Category 2 is integrates extension requirements as WCAG 2.x updates. There are also two options. Option 2.1 is WCAG 2.x by task force based on a WCAG 2.0 plus the work of an individual task force. And option 2.2 is WCAG 2.x by date across task forces. It combines success criteria from across task forces and integrates into date-driven 2.1, 2.2, etc. And one more option, option 3.1, WCAG 2.1, one-time amalgamation across task forces, unified group of candidate success criteria, and best practices. The first email requesting comments on these options was sent to the WAY interest group email list by John Folliot in April. John did a really great job on this. You can read all of the responses on the WAY interest group archive. There are 66 emails from 27 people. And you can also read the summary of the responses on this wiki page. Actually, I sent my comment. I prefer option 2.2, which is WCAG 2.x by date across task force. Last week, the WCAG working group just discussed a proposal made by the working group co-chairs Andrew Kirkpatrick and Joshua O'Connor. The attendees discussed this proposal, and there was agreement that this is a good approach. You can read this proposal on this wiki page. The point is that WCAG will be updated every 2 years, so we might have WCAG 2.1 possibly in 2018. Task forces can publish non-normative notes with user needs and best practices before WCAG 2.1. And after WCAG 2.1, we may have WCAG 2.2 or we may have next major update instead. It will depend on the progress. WCAG Working Group is interested in your feedback and thoughts on this proposal. So I encourage you to review these wiki pages and share with the working group your thoughts. David McDonald is one of the participants of WCAG Working Group I do respect. I used to working with him at the WCAG Working Group before WCAG 2.0 was published, and I rejoined the working group last year. David has been participating in the working group over the last decade. He has done significant contribution to the WCAG working group. Nobody doubts that. He says WCAG 2 was intended to be evergreen. That's true. WCAG 2.0 was written to be technology independent. That's why WCAG 2.0 became very ambiguous, sometimes confusing, and not easy to understand. Task forces are already developing new success criteria and techniques. So I'm going to make proposals to improve the existing WCAG success criteria today. I've been using the success criteria when I evaluate web accessibility in Japan as a consultant, and I come up with several ideas of improvement. My suggestions include color contrast, focus indicator, audio description, caption for live video, caption for foreign language video, and headings and labels, audio control, issues for older persons, then readability. Let me share with you this stuff. I'm gonna start with color contrast. Let's see. Obviously, this web page doesn't have sufficient color contrast ratio. Do you think this page will conform to WCAG 2.0 at level single A? What do you think? Single A. The answer is yes, yes, yes. WCAG 2.0 has success criteria about color contrast issues. 1.4.3 at level AA and 1.4.6 at level AAA. But there is no success criteria at level single A, so this web page can conform to level single A. This is a problem. And the success criteria 1.1.3 and 1.4.6 have an exception for large-scale text. According to the definition, large-scale text is at least 18 point or 14 point bold. And it seems like that the text sizes are physical sizes as measured with a ruler on the screen. There's very active discussion on point versus pixel. Patrick is rewriting the note for large-scale text. You can find it on the GitHub page. Patrick says, it was still not completely clear to me whether WCAG 2.0 actually means physical points as measured with a ruler on the screen or not. If this is the intention of the definition, then it would invalidate the whole premise of the normative definition, since there is no way for an author to ensure any particular physical rendering size. It depends on devices, the OS, the browser, user settings, etc. that users are using. Yes, exactly yes. Steve Faulkner wrote the same kind of topic on the Partial Group blog in 2012. Steve wrote that checking the example page on my iPhone, I found that all the text is scaled down. So what may be considered as large text on a PC screen is not on a phone or other device. It is likely your pages will be viewed on a range of devices and screen sizes. So I suggest sticking with the 4.5 color ratio for all text. Good point, and I agree with him. So uh, first of all, I would suggest to add a success criterion to level single A, and then each level doesn't have an exception on large-scale text. Required contrast ratio is 3 at single A, 4.5 at double A, and 7 at triple A. Web pages are viewed at different places. Viewing conditions are different. At least we should have additional requirements at level single A. Next one is focus indicator. This is pretty simple. Focus indicator is crucial for sighted keyboard users. If focus indicator is invisible, sighted keyboard users won't be able to know where the focus is. And it is impossible for sighted keyboard users to navigate through the web page and interact with the web content. Now, it is level AA, but I think we should have this success criteria at level single A. Audio description. Audio description for video. I still don't come up with a solution for this success criteria, but we can say that providing audio description is still technically difficult and time-consuming, and technologies haven't evolved to make this easier than we expected. I understand that audio description is helpful and useful for people who can't see the video and understand the visual information. On the other hand, AODA and the Web Accessibility Standard of New Zealand doesn't require audio description for pre-recorded video. They have the exception for audio description. This is one of the things we need to think about for WCAG Next. Next one is caption for live video. Again, ODA and Web Accessibility Standard of New Zealand doesn't require caption for live video as well as audio description for pre-recorded video. There is an exception on caption for live video. However, it might be easier for us to provide captions than audio description, even for live video, since we can use voice recognition technology to do this automatically to some extent. Actually, we already have some voice-to-text applications for people with hearing impairments. But for some languages, including Japanese, it will take more time to utilize the technology for automation. Anyway, I can live with this success criteria at level AA as it is, and it should remain. Although we need to consider the reality, maybe that's another story. I'd like to point out another issue on caption. It's caption for video in foreign language. This is a screenshot of Stevie Wonder's joke at 2016 Grammys. I really liked this video, it has English captions on screen as Steve speaks English. And this captioned video would meet success criteria 1.2.2, which requires caption for pre-recorded video. But what if this video is provided on a Japanese website for the Japanese users? Most of Japanese people don't speak English, so users won't be able to understand what he is saying. So I sent a public comment to the Wiki working group to clarify this issue 2 years ago. I don't think that caption in English is helpful and useful for Japanese people. I think even if the speaker speaks English, caption should be written in Japanese so that the Japanese people can understand the video content. My question was, is it acceptable to provide caption in Japanese for video in a foreign language? And I got a response from the working group. The answer was no. It means that I have to provide caption in English to meet success criteria 1.2.2, even if the video is intended for the Japanese people. Most of the Japanese people won't be able to understand the video at all. And if I provide Japanese caption with the video, it won't meet success criteria 1.2.2. Let me give you more understandable example for you. I'm assuming most of you don't speak Japanese and you cannot read Japanese characters. Let's assume that you are planning your trip to Japan for next vacation or holidays, and you found a website in your language which provides information for sightseeing in Japan. The website has a video which introduces Japanese culture. On the video, a Japanese guy is talking about Japanese culture things for tourists who will come from foreign countries like you. But he speaks Japanese, so the caption is written in Japanese to meet success criteria. Now, I have a question for you. Can you understand the information provided by the video with the Japanese caption? Can you understand the information provided by the video? My question is it acceptable to provide Japanese caption for English video to meet success criteria? The working group said no, but I would say yes, yes, yes. It should be acceptable simply because it is more helpful and useful for target users. It's quite meaningless to provide caption in foreign language. Do we have to provide caption in English to meet success criteria? If so, I have to recommend Japanese webmasters to provide Japanese caption as well as English caption for target users. But nobody provides both English caption and Japanese caption. It's time and cost consuming. What the Japanese users need is Japanese caption. Maybe I should say Japanese subtitle rather than Japanese caption, but it doesn't matter. Okay, next one, headings and labels. This is very simple. I would suggest 2.4.6 headings and labels to move to label single A. The success criterion says headings and labels describe topic or purpose. But I've never seen failure on this. It is straightforward for author to address. And most importantly, descriptive headings and labels benefit all users in the first place. So I would suggest moving this to label single A. Next one, audio control is also simple. Success criteria 1.4.2 allows author to play audio automatically for more than 3 seconds if there is a mechanism for audio control. But nobody wants any audio to play automatically when open a new web page. So I would suggest the success criteria to prohibit any audio from playing automatically without exception. Lastly, I'd like to make a proposal in terms of web accessibility for older persons. Introduction of WCAG 2.0 reads, these guidelines also make web content more usable by older individuals with changing abilities due to aging. I've been conducting usability tests with older persons for years. Again, Japan is the most rapidly aging country in the world. Here are a couple of suggestions based on the findings from usability testing with older persons. These 3 suggestions may be usability issues, but I'd like to share with you the findings I got so far, because there might be overlap with cognitive and learning disabilities. One is required fields must be identified with visible text. Second one is error identification and error message must be provided within the same viewport. And last one is convert double byte text into single byte text and vice versa when needed. Let me walk through one by one. First one, required field identification. On Japanese websites, asterisk or same kind of symbol is used to identify a required field. But in many cases, users don't notice that such symbols means the required field, even if text instructions are provided at the beginning of a form. Most effective solution for this issue is identify with visible text. Plus, using different color text to emphasize the required field is also helpful. Second one is about error message. When using mobile devices, users won't be able to notice when which item caused the error if the error message is not within the viewport. It is not sufficient to present error message at the beginning of the form. Even when using PC, older persons often forget the content at the beginning of the page once they scroll down. In general, they tend to get stuck when the information went to outside of the viewport. As for forms, error message must be within the same viewport. Last one is the Japanese language specific issue. In Japanese language, we can type both single byte text and double byte text for numerals and alphabetic characters. I've seen many times that the older persons cannot distinguish them by appearance, or they just don't know there are 2 kinds of characters they can type. Some form fields require users to type single byte characters or double byte characters for numerals and alphabetic characters, such as email address, telephone number, etc. Such form fields often cause the input error. So it is highly recommended to convert characters automatically to the required type of characters, not to cause an error even if users made a mistake. It is technically possible by using the back-end processing. One more thing, readability. I would say translatability. Wiki 2.0 has success criteria 3.1.5 reading level at level AAA. We still do not have any stable algorithm for Japanese language to calculate its reading level, but it's okay since it's AAA. It doesn't matter here. The problem is WCAG itself. If you are a native English speaker, I have a question as a person who is not a native English speaker. The question is WCAG 2.0 easy to understand? What do you think? WCAG 2.0 is now de facto global standard on web accessibility. It was really hard and time-consuming for us to translate WCAG 2.0 into Japanese. It was really tough for us to translate even glossary of WCAG 2.0. I believe translators all over the world feel it in the same way. WCAG itself must conform to reading level success criteria. Yes. The thing is that guidelines must be written in plain language. WCAG 2.0 is used internationally, so the most important thing would be plain language. It allows WCAG to be easily translatable. And this is crucially important in terms of the international harmonization. We've got to do something about this for WCAG Next in the very near future. As for plain language, 6 hours later, Ashley will give a talk about plain language. So stay tuned, everyone. That's it. Thanks so much for your patience with my English. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, thanks so much, Makoto. That was, oh boy, that was fantastic. You've got me thinking about a lot of things. I'm going to have to re-listen to the broadcast all over again, even though I've been sitting here watching it all the way through with so many great points that you made. And even the plain language has me thinking about translation and whatnot. Hey, John, just on your end, any questions for Makoto?
Yeah, we've got a couple questions. Makoto, can you clarify what single byte and double byte characters are? We used to.
Yeah. Let me go back to the slide.
Yeah, we can see your screen now, Makoto.
Okay. So for numerals and alphabetic characters, for example, on this slide, GAAD 2016 ID 24.com. We can type these characters both by single byte characters and double byte characters. Double byte characters are used for typing hiragana, katakana, and kanji, Han characters. But in general, for numerals and alphabetic characters, we use single byte characters. So this is very, very Japanese specific thing. So I'm not sure if you could understand my explanation.
No, so far it makes sense.
So if a form field required single byte characters, but user typed double byte characters, it may cause error, but it is possible to convert to single byte characters from single byte characters to double byte characters, or from double byte characters to single byte characters by a back-end process.
So, hey, John and Makoto, Amelia Bellamy-Royce was on earlier, gave a great presentation this morning, just reminded for those that may not be familiar with the terms that double byte characters are also known as full width characters. So they fill the same space as a CJK character. So we're really talking about, quite obviously, the size, the width of the character space taken up, and the difference between single byte and double byte at that level. Yeah.
That's a really good way to think about it, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Emilio. Appreciate you chiming in there. John, did you say there was a second question for Makoto that we got? Yeah, we still have about 3 minutes or so, so we're in good shape.
Sure. Makoto, regarding audio playing automatically, how would you approach this? Your suggestion for when that's actually expected, such as a game that's launched in the browser.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question for me?
Regarding audio playing automatically, how would you approach this for when the audio's expected to be played automatically? For example, when a game is launched inside of a browser?
I see. Personally, I don't expect that any audio plays automatically, but yeah, if there is such case, definitely the page should provide a mechanism to pause or stop the sound, automatically play the sound as required in the current success criteria. But I think most of cases we don't want any sound play automatically, so I suggest no exception.
Yeah, I actually agree with you there. I would rather not have any sound ever playing automatically on me, or video for that matter.
Yeah.
I've actually been to websites you're suggesting all at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, John. So Makoto and John, you're both suggesting user control at that level.
Well, I'm agreeing with him on that instance, that you just make it so that you that it doesn't happen.
Okay, good. Any other questions for Makoto-san? None. Okay, well, Makoto, thanks very much again to you, to all of our colleagues in Japan, of course, to your wonderful wife, Juka, and make sure you give her our love. We really appreciate you participating in ID24 for 2016, and we'll catch up with you on the road.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks much. And folks that are on the air, we just want to remind you that our next speaker that's coming up is Kel Smith. And Kel is going to be speaking to us on the topic Pixels, Plows, and Prescriptions, the Future of Wellness. So we'll pick that up again at the top of the hour, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and whatever time it is wherever you are, 1500 UTC. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes.
Thank you. Thanks, Miriam.
All right. Thanks a
Thanks
lot,
for-
Makoto.